there's something about life. There's a truth. There's something about going through the fire that is so required, and something about suffering that is so essential. This idea that we're meant to run from pain or run from difficult things and find the most leisurely and completely frictionless existence possible is such a lie.
Yeah.
It's not just a lie because it's not possible, but if it were possible, that would kill you the most. It's that, and it's also, you only will know when you are there. You have to go there to know there. You only know what it can be for you when you're in the fire. Everybody can talk about what they would do
Yeah.
when they are there, right? We can all say, man, if that would have happened to me, I would, slay the dragon. I would, whatever you think you would do, most often is not what you would do. And that's not because you're not who you think you are. It's because there's so many other factors you can't know. And for many things in my life that I think about, the things I've learned the most from are when I've embraced the discomfort and realized what I was made of through it. I don't actually believe that failure exists. Not cavalier, but there's a sense of understanding it now that I didn't have then. It's because I know they're for my own good. Not that they're all for my own good. It's not that it's necessarily for your own good, but failure doesn't exist. There's opportunity for you to take something from the experience. And even if the experience is reinforcing something that you already know, it's reinforcing something that you already know. It's an opportunity for you to see this experience, this thing that you wanted, this thing that maybe you hoped would work out, but didn't work out. All of that adds to the fabric and the richness of your character and your experience and your knowledge base so that you, as I say, you go there to know there. You have been there. I've traveled that road. I've played those notes. I know that piece. I sung that song. I own that. I own that. And there's always on the other side of everything the opportunity for transformation. Wow. I feel like my life is riddled with them. And I also feel like I moved through them fairly quickly. Man, I grew up between Kenner, Louisiana, which is a very old school southern town, old country, railroad tracks running through the middle of it with canals, provincial southern town just outside of New Orleans. And New Orleans is another planet. And I grew up, as a kid, getting bullied for all types of things, man. When I was in school, I'd get bullied, whether it was, are you okay? Are you with us? Are you slow? Your feet, your nose, your hair, all these aspects of self-esteem that were attacked. So then you go through life in these early years with no real understanding of what you have of value to offer the world, what you have to connect with. So fast forward, you get to a point where you discover music, but it's still something that, amongst my family, I was the youngest and least talented. When I was growing up, I didn't think that I would ever be a performer because there were 30 other people who had that covered. People don't get that. They think, oh, you were born with a tambourine in your hand and you came out singing. This is not the case. There was a glorious awkwardness that was a decade or more before I touched the instrument. I started at 11 years old, late bloomer in the context of everybody around me. Now, there was so many bad gigs, bad performances, and I was known as the kid who would play expressionless. I would be playing and it would be all well and good, but my face would have no expression, none. It would be like I was shut off. So I get to the point where there's a long period of hours and hours in the practice room and performances between 14 and 17. Living in Kenner, going back and forth to New Orleans, performing at night, going to 2 schools at once. Just this idea that, you had the art school in that evening, then in the mornings you had an academic school. Still getting bullied. Still also becoming somewhat of a young musical phenom, but not the best one. So there's still not really you don't really know where you fit or where it's all going. It was the piano. That was the thing. That was something that, I'd alternate between playing in clubs, at 14, 15 years old that I wasn't supposed to be in at night after going to school. And then I would also on the weekends be doing classical piano lessons and piano competitions. So alternating between those 2 realities and also going and really finding this sort of tribe at my peers, starting bands with first my cousins, Travis and Jamal, who are older and multi-instrumental and inspired me. Then Troy, trombone shorty, Andrews, who's maybe at the time we met 11 or 12, he'd been playing for a decade and touring the world. So we start bands, we're doing club shows, we're doing all these things and constantly just presenting things that are experimental and pushing ourselves to do things that we've never done. I didn't have a desire or a real push to go into music until I was maybe 17. And I moved to New York on my own. And the first felt like there was a great deal of support. My mother is a visionary when it comes to understanding what someone could be. She was the driving force of the piano being the instrument that I focused on at 11 versus, several other things that were in the periphery. I could have chosen the drums. Even if she didn't see that fully, she saw that the piano is the right direction for you to take in music. I don't know if she had a vision. She mentioned sometimes that there's a sophistication to the piano that she was attracted to, that felt like it was the instrument for someone who is going to apply all of their forces and all of their abilities. It's the conductor's instrument. It's the maestro's instrument. So I know that was a part of her thinking. It's the thing that's going to allow for you to be as highbrow or as lowbrow as you want. Yes, that is her thing. She's very clairvoyant. It's also a leadership quality she has. She was an environmentalist before it was the in vogue thing to do for many years. She would at a different time, not having been born in the South, a Black woman like her would be a CEO of a company. It's a different thing that she has it's significant to think about now in retrospect, all the decisions that she made, which eventually led to New York. Led to me graduating high school a year early, moving to New York as a minor at 17, and her supporting that. My dad also supporting that as a musical mentor, my first musical mentor. He was the one who was like, okay, New York is what cats really play, bruh. You going, in New Orleans, we play, and then there's like a legit thing with, the cats in New York. They're a little stiff, but you'll learn a lot. So he supported that too, from a different angle, right? And so I went up there and he's like, if you can make it in there, you have a lot to come back with. The vision was never, oh, you'll go there and stay there. It's a disaster. Man, listen.
Molly's like, I'm listening.
You dig? Mm-hmm. I went to New York, and within the first week, I'm in the subway traveling around, and I pass out on the platform. Luckily, there were some friends there who could catch me and take me to, which at this time it was, I think it was Roosevelt, the ER, the one that's right next to Lincoln Center. We went there. I'm there. They say, oh, you're exhausted. And maybe you're having some migraines or something. They give me Tylenol, tell me to go away. I'm having night sweats. I'm basically feeling this sharp pain in my lung. And then I start to pass out again. I feel this intensity. Meanwhile, the second day that I was there, before all this happened, I'm in the dorms at Juilliard. I'm unpacking. I'm doing all the things. The bunk is up. I fall off the bunk. And basically, fracture a rib, if not close to it. They do the x-ray. They're like, you got a lot happening. Now, this is the wildest part. I go back to the ER. They say you have walking pneumonia that you've had for 2 weeks. You have to stay here overnight, over a few days while, we give you the IV fluids and the antibiotics and all the things. I missed the orientation of the school year. I missed all the things that you kind of get acclimated to. And there's nobody that is in New York. I have a second cousin who lives in Harlem who I get acquainted with, and we become closer during this time. But I remember thinking, am I supposed to be here? From falling out the bunk. And I'm like, no, I can't miss this. So I go back. I'm just in there. Next thing you know, I'm fainting in the subway. Oh, man. Oh, I'm just exhausted. I got to cool out. Next thing you know, I'm in the nights and sweating. Something's happening. That's my lungs crying out. You've had pneumonia. You've been walking around with this. So between that being the first year of me being in New York, first time at Juilliard, first time being away from home, it completely felt like a crash and burn scenario. It's time for you to get out of here. Everything's telling me at this time internally as I'm sitting in the hospital. I remember those days. It was like 3 or 4 days I was there. And I felt this sort of, as a kid, you're like, I don't want to tell my parents, but I also don't feel like I belong here. I need to get out of here. And it's also this kind of, there was a dichotomy of coming from this very rich cultural heritage and this beautiful expression of excellence and pedagogy, but Juilliard being this European classical legitimizing entity that, especially as a young Black kid, pushing the boundaries of what generationally my family has achieved, and also musically eventually wanting to, become a disruptor from inside of all of it and just in the most benevolent way, rip it all down and build it again in a different way. Knowing that was somewhat of a motivation and then landing in sort of dead on arrival felt like it was ultimately the type of failure that it almost not only made me go home, but quit music. Just kind of like, this isn't my profession. I can just go home. I had a whole bunch of things I could have done other than this. To sit in there by yourself thinking about, is this a message?
So what happened? You're here. So what resurrected the confidence or the direction?
Just the inner knowing, man. You got to just know. The texture that added to me immediately, in retrospect, is why I continue. The inner knowing that these experiences, which are just a series of unfortunate things at an unfortunate time, can be exacerbated in your mind and in your psyche, especially if you stew in it. So I think, and I would tell this to the youngster, that happening to you is the gift of your arrival, because it allows for you to figure out upon entry how to process all of the discomfort that's to come in different forms, in different ways. So pace yourself. Take your time. It's your time. It doesn't all have to happen right now.
Yeah.
Life can be so sweet on the sunny side of the street. Oh, can't you hear the pitter patter? A happy tune to yourself, yeah. Life can be so sweet on the sunny side of the street. I used to walk in the shade, with my clothes on parade. But now I'm not afraid, because it's over and crossed over. And if I never have a cent to blow, I'll be rich as the Rockefeller. Oh, with gold dust at my feet, baby, on the sunny side